Hi, everybody. We're just, it's just past 5:30. We'll just give maybe a minute or so to see if anybody else comes on while we're here, just before we get underway. Okay, I guess we'll get going. We'll try and respect the hour that we've allocated for this. I know everyone is busy. Kids are just back in school and a number of other things going on. So we'll get going. This is being recorded, just a reminder, and it's going to be made available for reference later. It might be with some videos that we've done to put it together. And for anybody who is coming into the meeting late, or for consumers who join the program later, they'll have this as a reference point. So thank you everybody for coming to our meeting today. This is the JAG Junior Age Group Gold, Junior Age Group Blue Town Hall meeting for the 2021 season. A couple administrative reminders. Everybody is on mute with their video off. Thank you very much for that. That just helps us keep the stream steady so that we don't crash the call. Much appreciated. We have on our call today, we have Dave Johnson, our head coach, our director of swimming. We have the club president, Kim Connell. We have our COVID officer, Ella Wilson. And we also have our junior age group coaches, Jackie Pratt and Kara Clifford. So we sent out an agenda today, and really what we're looking to go through, and we will put some of this up for you to see. The majority of you were involved in the program in the summer, so a lot of this is nothing new, but we are going over the 2021, the upcoming season, in particular how it relates to the Cascade Swimming, the Swim Alberta and Swimming Canada return to swimming documents, as well as direction from Alberta Health Services and how it pertains to the Cascade program. And so what we're going to talk about really, again, for the majority of you, this whole process is nothing new, but some things have changed. Swim Alberta put out a new version of the document at the end of August, as did we in reaction to that. And then we have also secured training time at Canyon Meadows and at the Seton, the Brooksville YMCA in Seton. And those two facilities run the same, but slightly differently than what you were used to at the Repsol Sports Center throughout the summer. So I think the biggest changes, and sorry, just another quick admin thing. If you have any questions that pop up throughout our meeting, please, you can either wait to the end and throw them up, or as they come to you, you can throw them up in the chat. After we go through our presentation, we will talk about any of the questions. Perhaps we will go over that and give you the answers already. And if not, we will try and address them after in the Q&A session. So actually, I did just jump ahead of myself. First, before we get into the return to swim documents, and my apologies, as I skipped over probably the most important part. It is our coaches, and so and the program. And just before we have our coaches speak, again, the majority of this meeting is going to be in around the upcoming season as it relates to the changes that COVID have brought upon the organization and how we do things. So there won't be a lot of technical information passed along tonight at the meeting, because we do have members on the call that are both currently registered and swimmers who are part of the program last season but have not yet registered, and that information really will only pertain to those that are competing this year as a part of the JAG program. So we do have Coach Kara and we have Coach Jackie on the call. Jackie is our development program supervisor and oversees junior age group as well as Olympic Way and all of our swim school programs. And I'll let her speak first regarding the junior age group program.
Thanks. Well, I guess, did you want me to go over the facility protocols, Jake? Just to
we'll do that as we come to the, we can do that at, why don't you save that for the end, because then that will lead right into the other protocols that we have in place.
Okay, well, I'll just quickly say, I guess we could go over equipment. If anyone has any questions about what the kids need for equipment this year. It hasn't changed from last year, and it is listed under the swim gear page on our website if you're able to access that. Swim meets, as far as swim meets go, we don't have any scheduled swim meets until at least January, possibly the third weekend into January. I think, is that right? That's sort of our first.
Correct, for the time being, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I guess really the big thing would be our first week of training is at Canyon Meadows. So Seton wasn't able to let us in until the 21st of September. And so our first week of training, which would be the 14th to the, well, for JAG Gold, it's the 14th to the 18th. JAG Blue will swim on the Saturday the 19th, but those that first week of training is all at Canyon Meadows Pool, and that is in the various calendars, so you can find the schedule. The times are all the same. We were able to do that, and the days are all the same. It's just it's just at Canyon Meadows. So that would be the one change, and then beginning on the 21st of September, we'll start back at Seton like we did last year with a regular schedule. We don't have extra additional time set aside for dryland yet. We need to correspond a little bit more with the Seton and just see what they're going to give us for available space. We do have a little bit of room on the pool deck, and we will do some strength and core dryland exercises before we swim, just on the pool deck. And I think really that's all the changes. If anyone has any questions about that. Kara, did you want to talk about JAG Blue? I think We're both in the same boat. JAG Blue is also at Canyon Meadows that first week, and then we return the second week.
Yeah, that's right. Hi, everyone. I'm Kara. If we haven't met before, some of you I know have been corresponding through the office a little bit. Yeah, the schedule is posted right now for JAG Blue on the JAG Blue website page. And then I will be updating the calendar page kind of through this week and over the weekend. The practice schedule is pretty set. So I don't expect any changes. So once you get into the flow of things, that'll be nice and easy to follow. And just as Jackie said, we'll be doing some activation, some dry land sort of within our training context right now. And then once we have more information to share on, you know, potentially expanded hours with dry land training, we'll let everyone know as soon as we can. And again, just reiterate, like, it's an open door policy for me. So if you have any questions at any time, just send me a quick email. And all of that information, our contact information is on the website. So nice and easy to find. Yeah, just reach out if you have any questions.
Sorry about that. Just to reiterate, the calendars are up on the Cascade website for the junior age group program, and that week number 1, if you've not already seen it, it is at Canyon Meadows Pool before we get into the normal routine starting the week of the 21st of September, and at which point we'll be back at Seton. The coaches touched on, and Dave, you can feel free to jump in at any time here, the fact that, well, one, we won't be hosting any summits where we invite, let me just correct that, qualify that, where we invite additional teams to at the moment until January. And so there's been a lot of work done in working with Swim Alberta, giving our direction and our advice to provide meaningful competition while we are still not able to travel to compete or invite other teams to our pool to compete. And so the idea of virtual summits is something that we'll need to get used to in the immediate future. And Dave, I'm not sure if you'd like to maybe expand a little bit on that and what we see coming in the next couple of months with competitions.
First of all, hello to everybody, and welcome to this interesting swim year that's looming in front of us. Just to follow up on that point, one, we're very happy that we have our facility space available to the extent that it is available, which is almost exactly as much, and in some cases in respects to getting access to Canyon Meadows, even more than what we've had before. But just to put it in perspective, there are a lot of programs in Canada and around the world that are not as fortunate as we are at the moment. And so I take that as a positive, and I think we can build on it and make it a meaningful experience for our youngsters and developing swimmers. As far as the competitions are concerned, we did run those sort of Swimming Alberta passport events, the 50s of the strokes and the 100 IM and different things of that nature, for a cross-section of the team. And if you actually look at the results, we were very prominently positioned through that period of time. And I think our intention is to schedule these virtual meets in the same sort of manner in which our calendars were developed last year, where we have basically something of significance where the swimmers will stand up and race. It might be just in their practice time, or maybe at Repsol, depending on some of the parameters that were will be given to us by Swim Alberta and Swimming Canada. But I think that those competitions can take on some significance in terms of measuring and gauging progress for the swimmers, and also providing some vehicle for competition that is essential in, I think, the well-being of the program and well-being of the kids. So we're looking to formalize that. We're waiting for some feedback from not only the facility, but also from our other partners, Swim Alberta and Swimming Canada. But it's a fluid situation, and we're gonna compete and race no matter what. It's just what exactly that format is gonna look like remains to be seen. That's it, Jake. So.
What a Zoom rookie I am here, talking with my mute on. We did have a question that came through regarding competitions and what the format of those will be. Will the times count? What will the, will there be a cost to them? Will be they, slightly different times or locations than either normal training or traditional competition? A lot of that we don't have the exact answers for, and I think the best answer we have is, as Coach Dave gave, is that we're going to work to at minimum do what we did in the summer, for those that swam, where we had in-house competitions during practice times, with the day just structured slightly differently with a series of events, whether it's a Swim Alberta passport or something else that the coach of the club directs on a regular basis. Will those times count? Will they end up in the Swimming Canada database or the power rankings? We don't have the answers to those questions right now, because it would take a different level of sanctioning that is not there at the moment. My understanding is that Swim Alberta has been working on that throughout the summer so that they can come up with a solution to the maximum number currently of people we can have in and around the pool deck at any one time. So if you think about a traditional swim meet where we have X amount of swimmers, 3 timers, 2 or 3 timers per lane, a number of stroke and turn, a starter, a referee, so on and so forth, and the coaches, you can see how very easily we get over that 50-person maximum that could be around any one of those parts of the pool at any one time as it relates to a cohort. And even that has restrictions because the different buildings have different restrictions around numbers, regardless of cohort size. So there are some challenges in front of us in terms of getting official times over the next month or two. What does that look like in late November, December? It's really difficult to say, but certainly through September and October, it does not look like we'll be putting up official sanctioned events with official and sanctioned results. So that's not, again, in the big picture, it's not really something that we're too worried about. Obviously, we'd like to be it a little bit differently, but at the moment, as it pertains to competition, we're just playing the cards that we're being dealt, which as we're sort of all familiar with right now. So and again, it's just coming back to now the different protocols that we have in place and the return to swim documents. As I mentioned, there were some changes at Alberta Health. There were some changes at Swim Alberta, which necessitated some changes in our own documents. And one of the biggest ones that came out most recently that we're all aware of, you've all been made aware of, is that you're only able to participate in one sporting or performance cohort group. And so what that means in a practical sense is that if you are a part of the Cascade Swim Club, you cannot also at the same time be a part of the Atlas Weightlifting Club or the Mercury Track and Field Club or any such thing like that, or even a choir group or another artistic performance group. And that is something that is not that was not something that we initiated. That was something that came down to us from Swim Alberta and is in place currently for the foreseeable future. It is possible that it will change as we all learn to live with COVID. But at the moment that is in place, and for all Swim Alberta registered swimmers, which everybody inside of our organization is a part of, that rule applies. Okay, so that's the biggest change. Some of the other smaller changes that we have in place really pertain to the facilities that we are in. They all have different ingress and egress. They all have different rules around spectating, as an example. And we will send you the details of them before you go to the pool. But suffice it to say, during your first week at Canyon Meadows, swimmers will be asked to come to the pool ready to swim, so that they will have their swimsuits on under their clothes. It's no different than when you came to the pool in the summer. It is going to be more challenging because you will be likely coming from school. However, locker room use on the way into the building is not available to us at Canyon Meadows. Locker room use on the way out of the building is available to us at Canyon Meadows. As we move into week number 2 at Seton, and again, here's another subtle difference, locker room use is available to us on the way in, and it's available to us on the way out. So again, so these are some of the small changes that the facilities have, and the some of the rationale is really just about the layout of the building and the layout of the facility and the capacity. As you all know, Seton is brand new. It is built to modern standards. It is quite a large space in the locker rooms for in and out. So there are no restrictions there in the locker rooms at Seton. However, in week number 1, while you're at Canyon Meadows, the restriction is you're not allowed to change on the way in, but you can change on the way out. So again, we will send you those details, but that is some of the subtle differences that are there. I'm just going to throw up our screening questionnaire for everybody because there are a couple small differences here, and I will ask Ella if she would like, as our COVID officer, if she would like to speak to our new screening questionnaire document. Just as I get it open, just bear with me 1 second here. Great. So, all right. So I'm just going to share the screen with everybody, and I'll just ask Ella if she would like to address any of that. And here we go. Okay. So this is, hopefully everybody can see this on your screen. This is the screening questionnaire. If you were with us in the summer, it will look fairly familiar to you. And I'll just let Ella talk to any of the other points here on this.
Sure. If anyone was here in the summertime, you will know how these forms work. It has to be done at a certain time prior to every practice. There is a link that will be sent to you for your roster group, and you use that same link every single time before every single practice. As far as times are concerned for this year, we were possibly going to do it, the form the night before, so that the coaches will have it for the next day and give them ample time to organize everything. And the forms have been revised to the new revisions as per Alberta Health standard form that's out there that you've all probably seen through your schools. And as far as ours is concerned, the new one it has to do with, are you part of one sport cohort only? And there was a question that arose here just a few moments ago, I believe, as pertaining to these forms regarding, wouldn't it be easier if we just did as per some of the schools did and not do the forms daily as we do? It definitely would be easier, but our purpose here is to go above and beyond for the safety of everyone, that when you go to the pool or practice every single time, you'll have all these questions and answers and the top of mind. So to answer them honestly, and so we'll know that everyone that day is healthy and happy and ready to swim. So yes, it would be easier, but as far as we are concerned, this only keeps things far more safer. And as far as the forms are concerned, like you did in the summertime, they are done exactly the same way. They are done at a certain deadline, and if by chance you missed it, you can, as we have to have it before every practice, so there will be the coaches there the day of, and you can scan a URL code that we'll be sending to you that you can fill in right away. But it makes things a lot easier, it moves a lot faster for everyone that day if everything is done on time the night before. I think that's all.
Great. And I'll just add to what Ella said about the rationale behind doing these forms every day. And what we're going to be asking everybody is much like in the summer. There's a window of time we'd like to do it. You'd like you to do it the night before. Obviously, if something changes over the course of those 12 hours from when you do the form in the early evening on Sunday to you're up and moving around, or before practice on Monday afternoon, then we would hope that you would keep that in mind. And if something does change, obviously, as it relates to the symptoms of these screening questions, that you would then not attend workout. But the other reason we are doing these on a daily basis, or a every practice basis, is the contact tracing, and enabling us to keep the contact tracing up and as accurate as it can possibly be with the people who are in the water on any given session, so that in the event, and we were very fortunate in the summer that we did not have any positive cases. Our parents did a spectacular job. Our coaches did a great job. Our kids did a great job keeping themselves healthy. But we're in a different circumstance now. It's coming into the fall. It's coming into regular flu season, and kids are now back in school. So all of that means is that we're basically starting at a higher level of risk. And we don't want to be an organization that becomes one of the little flare-ups as they pop up. I don't want to see ourselves all over social media and the news as the club that shuts down a particular pool. So if we do have anything come up, and whether it's just checking in on or worse, a positive test, having this very accurate contact tracing that we do through the app available to us essentially instantly on whatever particular day somebody was out there will be very beneficial. And so that's another part of the rationale as to why we're doing it every single day, and why we're not asking you to look at a screening questionnaire and answer it to yourself, but to actually fill out the form and submit it. Great. So I don't think other than that there's any differences, Ella, on this form. It's just really around some of those questions that are slightly different, and in particular how it pertains to the cohorts. So
That's correct.
great. So there were some questions around eating and drinking at a facility during a swim meet and so on. Some of that information we're still looking to get. And again, some of it is facility specific as to whether or not you can use the water fill stations and bring snacks at a swim meet. But again, that information is something that we would give to you in advance prior to getting there. The next part of what we're going to talk about is, because the question has come up, is what we would do in the event of another total provincial or municipal shutdown. And that would be something akin to what we ran into back in March and April, which was the full shutdown and lockout of facilities for groups like ours, and that was what happened in mid-March. So, and as Dave mentioned earlier, we're in a very fortunate situation here in the province of Alberta, and even in particular here in the city of Calgary. And not only that, even in our situation inside of the community, we've got a good relationship with facilities, as Dave mentioned. While we're not back at Acadia, which doesn't impact you, we are back at Canyon Meadows, and with even more space than we've had before. So all of these are very positives, because as we look across the country, from Victoria, who's only allocating an hour and a half of training time per swimmer per week, because they have to swim one swimmer per lane, all the way to facilities in the Maritimes, they're shut down or not open yet, and not opening and potentially until the new year because they don't have the numbers. There's a little bit of everywhere in between. And so Calgary and Cascade are positioned quite well at Canyon Meadows, at Seton, and at Repsol. So in that sense, we're pretty fortunate. The likelihood, and none of us have a crystal ball, but the likelihood of there being another total 100% economic shutdown in the province does seem slim. It does not mean that it could not happen, and we are prepared for that, but the likelihood seems, again, fairly slim. But in the event that it does happen, we do have some protocols in place. And so I'll share those with you now. They will be up on our website just towards the end of the week, but there shouldn't be any material changes from what I'm presenting here. So in the event of a total shutdown, no access to facilities immediately, but no later than 7 days, we would default back to our remote dryland training program, much like what we did in the spring. That program would carry us through to 14 days. What happens in the 14 to 30 day window is that we would then present our members with two options. You would have the option to continue with remote and online training, again, in some way, shape, or form, much like we did in the spring, or you would have the option to withdraw from the program under our COVID withdrawal procedure. And that would take, that would be, at the 30-day mark. And so inside of that, if the shutdown is going to last longer than 30 days, you essentially have two choices. You can continue or in some form of remote training, or you can withdraw. And what it would be a prorated withdrawal based on your membership fees. And so what we've done is we have a formula for everybody, and that will be up, but essentially it's a minus our sort of non-refundable fees, which overall on your total fees is 25%. The other 75% would be refundable on a prorated basis, depending on how long the season lasts. So if there was a total shutdown in November, obviously that would be different than a total shutdown in April or in May, but the same formula would apply. And so that would be available different than our current and our regular which would be in place in the case of another total shutdown here inside of the province. We did have a couple other questions as it relates to what happens to my swimmer in the event of a positive test or a requirement to isolate on the behalf of, a requirement to isolate based on direction from Alberta Health. And so in the event that a swimmer has to isolate or has tested positive, there are protocols in place from Alberta Health, which would require a certain period of time of isolation, as well as a negative test result before you'd be able to come back into the pool. But during that time, a coach would be assigned to provide some remote as well as online dryland training throughout the time that they have to be isolated. The same applies if a certain lane or even a cohort is asked to isolate or quarantine for a period of time. And this is we're getting from the Alberta school, or sorry, not the Alberta, but the Calgary Pool School Board. And it's basically a protocol that they're following. So we don't know the answer to the question, if somebody in my cohort tests positive, do I need to also isolate and quarantine? If somebody in my lane tests positive, do I need to isolate and quarantine? These are questions that we bring to Alberta Health, and they are very individual answers based on the situation that they find themselves in. And so that's why so many of our other protocols, some of which are a little bit more stringent than Alberta Health, are important, and important that we're following them while we're in the pool, while we're outside of the pool, and while we're at school. Ideally, we would see no loss of time for individuals in and around somebody who tests positive, but we don't know those answers, unfortunately, until it happens. But if it does happen, and your swimmer does have to isolate, or your lane of swimmers, as an example, do have to isolate, we will assign a coach to give directed training away from the pool, combination of remote and online, Zoom in this case, training, and look after those swimmers while they're out of the pool until they're cleared by their doctor in Alberta Health to come back into the program.
Jake, we did lose you for a minute there. You were frozen. So
Oh.
I think that probably we should just do a quick repeat of sort of the prorated fee.
Okay, sure. Sorry,
Yeah.
where did I end up freezing?
It was right about the start of when you started talking about fees.
So 5
Yeah.
minutes ago? Okay, perfect.
Well, we did get you back, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'll just recap our COVID withdrawal procedures. So this is, our current withdrawal policy is in place. It has not changed. It's up and available on our website. This new COVID withdrawal procedure will be up on our website very shortly, and we're just explaining it to everybody through these town halls right now. That procedure is this: in the event, albeit as unlikely as it is, of another total economic shutdown in the province or in the city where we are locked out of our facilities, immediately we will default to, but within no later than 7 days, we will default to remote and online dryland training for all of our programs. We will carry that through 14 days. After 14 days, in that, if we're still locked out of our facilities between 14 and 30 days, we will present our members with two options. Option one will be to continue with the program through remote and online training for the duration of our lockout or shutdown. Option two will be to withdraw from the program based on our COVID withdrawal procedure. That COVID withdrawal procedure is this: we take out your non-refundable fees, which are 25% of the total fees that you pay. The additional 75% will be returned to you on a prorated basis based on however many months of swimming that were in the pool, based on a September to June season. So if we swam through to in February and it was going to be an extended lockout and the program, you didn't want to continue with dryland program, we would just take away those mandatory fees, non-refundable fees. The amount that is left would be prorated, and if that's what you opted to do, you could have a refund of those fees based on the March through to June remaining portion of the season. So I think that's the complete recap of the total shutdown. Did I come back in time when we was speaking about the lanes and what might happen if somebody gets sick? Is that back in place? Yeah, okay, good. Okay. So that is all of the changes that we have for the season currently. We do still have steps left before swimmers can get back into the pool. So if you've registered already with the club, the next thing you are going to get, it's not an automatic process, but the next piece of this return to the pool process will be an email from Swimming Canada, registration at swimming.ca, and this will be where you sign what you signed separately last year, but your assumption of risk and your liability waiver as it relates to this pandemic situation for Swim Alberta, that's all a part of your Swimming Canada registration. It is not a separate piece for the fall, it's all part of the same. So that email will be coming, and I can probably guesstimate that it'll be in the next, Kara, jump in if I'm inaccurate, in the next 24 to 48 hours, you'll likely get that email from Swimming Canada. We'll need you to go and take care of that registration piece, just in order that everything is all done prior to your first practice for JAG Gold, scheduled for the 14th, or JAG Blues, scheduled for the 15th of September. We do understand that there are some people on this call that have not registered yet. That is completely fine. We understand that everybody's personal circumstance is different. Some of you are at school, some of you have multiple children in your family involved in various activities. the circumstances are sort of infinite and different for everybody. So again, it's not a problem if it's a decision that you can't make immediately, but just understand that if it's a delayed registration, it does just delay some of these necessary steps that we are required to do before you can get back in the pool. And namely, that's that registration with Swimming Canada and the sign off on the Swim Alberta assumption of risk and liability waiver. We did have a question in one of our earlier calls, and the answer is the same here with this group as it was. If you're not ready to make that decision, and again, we understand that, until the new year, if you're looking to see how the school year goes, how the fall goes in the flu season, you're perfectly within your rights to do that. You know, there would be nothing holding you back from coming back in January. The exception being if we find ourselves in a position where we've, let's say, had to give up pool times or coaches based on our registration numbers. It may not be as simple as just flipping a switch and starting up again in January. That's not meant to scare anybody. It's just a reality that we're dealing with as we are looking at doing our bookings for you know, both staff and pool rental. So we did go over a number of points, and please, any one of our staff that are on the call, if there's anything that you felt was missed, you know, by all means, just jump in. And if not, I'll go to the Q&A and see if we've addressed all or any of these questions that have come up in here. So I think we talked about the COVID questionnaire and the just doing verbal answers as opposed to the form, and it explained our rationale for that. So the question is, if we have to change our training times and locations in a material way, is what I'm assuming this reads, a wholesale change, would you be able to withdraw if you could no longer make the training? You know, certainly that's something that we would address with you if that ended up being a reality where you were registered to train on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday program, and all of a sudden we had to shift to Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and you weren't able to attend. You know, I think we'd address that on an individual basis, and we'd be fairly understanding in that case. So the Swim Alberta rule, and just for clarification on the 2-meter social distancing. And so where we're challenged and where we are currently at is that you're only able to participate in one sporting cohort or one performance group. So the challenge becomes, if it's an additional sport, is the policing and the guaranteeing of that 2 meters of distancing, which is not something that too many are able to do. And so that's where we've kind of found ourselves with the only able to participate in one organized sport. So if there is a particular situation that comes up, you know, this is, and they would be maybe unique. This is something you could bring to our COVID officer, and we could take a look at. But there are very few sports, and none that I'm aware of, that are not operating inside of that cohort model. Potentially there are, but we're not currently aware of them that are operating outside of that cohort model. And again, there may be, and we could address that if that situation came up. But currently it is only one sporting or performance group that people are able to participate in. The point system and how it works, sure, with no hosted events, there are no points. And so we are anticipating that in the new year, we will be hosting meets, and that we will you know, we will have points allocated. They'll be allocated in the same sort of formula that we have always used, which is basically the number of required volunteer shifts versus the number of members, weighted more heavily to the older, more senior groups versus our more novice and introductory groups. And then you'd be assigned that on a prorated basis. And the second part of that question is, are you counting these points in terms of dollars and the registration fees? So the fines and penalties that do come in for points are never something that the club has ever budgeted for, nor do we anticipate budgeting for that. When funds do come in through the fines and penalties, they get allocated to our swimmer in need and our performance funds, so our high performance funds. And it's again, it's never something that the club budgets for or counts on. As it pertains to the points, our hope is that everybody works those points because it's required to host competitions for your swimmers. So we're never looking for you not to do your volunteer bit on the pool deck, because that means that we have to find somebody else to do it. And we're never looking to fine anybody, but it's just a part of that carrot and stick rule of getting everybody to be voluntold to contribute to hosted meets. Are piano lessons considered performance cohorts? My understanding is that they are, although we could certainly check and see on that for you. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. Ella, is there something that we've looked at in terms of piano lessons and whether or not that's a part of a sporting cohort or a performance group? And
As far as there are a lot of piano lessons now that are virtual. If that's something, I'm assuming that's not what you are mentioning. But as far as a piano lesson, I'm assuming it's one instructor and a student that can be distance. I wouldn't consider that a cohort.
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't think that's an issue.
Yeah. So there's your answer. And it might be, again, the circumstances are a little unique for every kind of situation. And so if you do have those questions or you do have a particular scenario that you're looking at, by all means, bring it forward. So, you know, we don't always know those answers, and we get clarification from, you know, whatever source we need, whether it's Alberta Health or other. Well, now I see the notes that I was frozen. Maybe I should have looked at this a little while ago. Loss, repeat. Question regarding the 25% of the non-refundable fees. That goes to, it's basically part of the cost of doing business that we have. So in the summer, we were very fortunate in that as everybody was working to get back into, you know, kind of get the economy going and facilities were opening and so on, they were very flexible with us as it pertains to, you know, bookings and cancellations and working with us if we had to all of a sudden make a change in being able to come to the pool or not. That is no longer in place. So we have contracts with the pools for the season. We are able to make adjustments, but our contract and our ability to cancel space, as an example, is between 30, 60, and 90 days, depending on the facility that we're at. So that, along with the contracts that we have in place for staff, all kind of go towards that portion that is the non-refundable fees in the event that you look to withdraw. How are registration levels in JAG Blue and JAG Gold? I can't say, I haven't actually looked today. I think between the two groups, we might be in their thumbs up. They're double thumbs up. So it's a double thumbs up so far in registration with JAG Gold and JAG Blue. But I kind of think we're, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kara, we're in our, maybe our 20s somewhere between those two groups. I don't know exactly. 30s, 40s. 30s. Okay. So between the two groups, we're in our 30s. And so it's not exactly where we were last summer or certainly last spring, but our hope is that those numbers will go up over the course of the next couple of days. And our membership is sometimes, we just had a long weekend just as registration was starting. Sometimes we're just a bit slow with it. So hopefully those numbers sort of go up. Yeah. If you decide to withdraw and then return, that's a very good question. And I can't give you the answer on that. What would sort of be the cost of coming back? I mean, it would be back on a prorated basis, depending on what time of the year you came back. But I actually don't have an answer for you on that. And that will come out, though, as a part of this document that we do put up on the website, just that exact case scenario. If you decide to come back after withdrawing, let's say you withdraw in January and want to come back in April, we'd have to take a look at that. And we'll put that up so that you know that answer inside of that document when we post it. Where can you find the video? Sorry, my question just jumped. Where can you find the video of this meeting? We will post this on our YouTube page. And that's for Alvaro. We'll post it on our YouTube page so that you can go back and you can see it. It does take a couple days for it to render through Zoom, and then we'll pop it up so that you can reference it there. And in the meantime, you could ask some of the other people that were on the call if you have any questions, or maybe we'll address it again later on here. If you decide to withdraw, can you rejoin after the pool opens? Yes, you can. Again, the only sort of thing that would be standing in the way of that is if, let's just say we had for whatever reason, we had a wholesale withdrawal inside of the program, and we had to release space and we had to release coaches, and then we may not have the same kind of program to come back to if that was the case. And again, that's not meant to scare anybody. It's just a reality. If we lost 2/3 of our JAG programs, we'd obviously have to give up a lot of pool space and let some coaches go, and then it would not be the same program necessarily to come back to. Obviously, we would do what we could to make sure that you could come back into the water and as part of the program, but we wouldn't say no, but we couldn't necessarily guarantee that. In the meantime, pay for points. There's there's no points being assigned for the fall season. I'm not quite sure what that question is meant. So there's no points because there's no hosted meets in the fall. If you're referring to maybe the example of previous seasons as listed on the website, those are just meant as examples. There won't be any points assigned in the fall. There won't be any points assigned to any of our members until we start hosting competitions, and that won't likely be until January at the earliest. That could happen sooner if something changes in the province in Whistler, Alberta, but at the moment we're not counting on any hosted meets. Any chance of inter-squad cohorts like we did in the summer? At the moment, so example, Olympic weight swimmer swimming in JAG, at the moment the answer is no. And it's really just about, that was an exception in the summer when we were trying to get as many people back into the water. And we were also looking at consolidating and being as efficient as we could with pool space. And so that's why we were able to, given the flexibility of summer, allow for, as an example, Olympic weight swimmers inside the JAG cohort. But that is not something we are planning on in the fall. So I think those numbers have been updated, as Coach Jackie put that, Kara, so there seems to be an update from there. So if enrollment is low, will fees increase? So you know, we're not planning on any fee increase. There was no increases to fees to the members from last season to this season. The program has become more expensive for the club to run. We do have to build in pool space that is a buffer between groups coming in that we have to pay for. So we're talking again about some of those non-refundable costs that we have as it pertains to a COVID withdrawal that we have not passed along to the members. And but we're not planning on raising the fees at the moment because of low enrollment, if that's where we end up. Sometimes on Friday, wait for sometime for us. Yeah, so this is a great question about if you essentially are coming late to the practice. So the challenge that we faced at the Repsol Sports Center was that you were coming through an emergency exit door that through the latter part of the summer, when it was up on the top of the stairs, it was not clear glass. No one could see if you were there. Our coaches were on the pool deck. The difference at Seton and the difference at Canyon Meadows is that there's a COVID marshal, a Cascade coach, who will be there to meet swimmers at the door. So obviously, we hope that everybody gets there on time, but we understand things happen, and we understand kids get out of school 3:30-ish, as you describe, and then you've got to be there for 4, and it can be a bit of a mad dash. We understand all those things happen. So we would do everything that we could to try and get a swimmer into the pool if that were the particular case. Again, try and be there on time, but if you can't, because you're at Canyon Meadows and because you're at Seton, we do have a little bit more flexibility, and we do have a little bit more ability to deal with swimmers if they are coming late. And that's just because of the way that we're structuring the marshal as the meet and greet, or the coach who will ensure that you've done your screening questions for the day and then get you into the pool. So I really don't anticipate that being too much of an issue at Seton. And you know, you'll just be able to contact your coach, and I guess that's all I would say. And Jackie or Kara, you can jump in if there's anything to add. But if you do know that you are going to be late, or and feel that you're going to be, just contact your coach, send them a quick little email. And then we were working quite well that way throughout the summer while at Repsol, just contacting your coach, and then could find a way to get the swimmer down on deck or through the doors. So.
Yeah, the JAG Gold Swimmers will have my cell number, and you can fire me a text message if you're running late, and Kara as well. So we have good communication, so it won't be hard to get a hold of us if you're running late.
Okay. How many JAG Blue and swimmers historical sign up? Jackie, Kara, jump in, I guess, in terms of your numbers. It's not something I have in front of me. I think JAG
We were
Gold.
at 16 last season.
16 JAG Blue.
16, and as of today, I think we were at 8. So
8. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't look today. Sorry, Kara. I know last year in JAG Gold, we had 36.
Yeah. And if we're in our mid-20s now, and if it's 18 JAG Blue, my assumption would be we're 18 or 19 maybe in JAG Gold currently. So question regarding fundraising. So that's a very good question. And at the moment, and we have been looking at this, traditional fundraising has taken a big hit. Obviously, there's not a lot of motivation for people. As an example, one of the big fundraisers that we had that we do not have in this fall, partly because of the situation, which was the raffle tickets going around and selling, or you know, setting up and having people come to buy tickets. That is not an option for us right now. And notwithstanding that the NHL season, which just ended, or so actually, I guess it just ended, depending on who you're a fan of, but is ongoing until early October. The new season doesn't start up until December. Will they will they host games with fans at the Saddle Dome? We don't have those answers, but if they do, we will look to try and bring our Flames tickets raffle sale back, and people can use that as a fundraiser. So a lot of the fundraising and the traditional fundraising is on hold across the board, but as things change, we'll certainly look at trying to find options for our members to do some of that account fundraising that we've done in the past. Virtual dryland versus pool dryland. Absolutely. And so I don't think Jackie mentioned this, but part of what we will be doing, and correct me if you did mention this, Jackie, is that part of what we will be doing is right from the outset, giving some remote dryland training to our swimmers. And this is just in preparation for, in the offhand chance that we do have to come to some version of a shutdown. We're going to try and make sure that we're not starting from essentially scratch, which was the position that we found ourselves in March while we did dryland. Leading up to that, we had not done weeks, which became months on end of dryland. And so that was creating new programs for everybody. So in anticipation of a potential situation like last time, the coaches will be doing remote dryland with the kids, basically once we get going into the season, so that they are familiar with some of the exercises. They'll be doing it on the pool deck as well, but that will be in preparation for, you know, well, hopefully a situation that we don't run into. So will we be doing virtual dryland wholesale? That sort of remains to be seen. We are getting dryland space at our facilities, but is the last thing to come. And I think, and I can appreciate, and it's more just so everybody's aware, we can certainly appreciate the challenge with trying to schedule your kids, your other kids, your school, and so on in and around your swimming, and not being able to get a confirmation of training times until really late in the game. You should know that your coaches were working pretty hard on that, as were everybody in the office, but it was just information that came to us quite late in the game in terms of contracts with Canyon Meadows, contracts with Seton. It was all a very end of August, beginning of September, final allocation of space, and I think perhaps even later at Repsol, which doesn't necessarily apply to you. So that's what we were confident that we would get very close to what we had before, which is the reason why we were saying that your training times, for the most part, will all be the same at the same location. We just couldn't do final confirmations of that up until very recently. Parents spectating. So if you're at Repsol, the answer is no. If you're at Seton, the answer is no. If you are at Canyon Meadows, the answer is yes. One parent per family is allowed to be in the viewing area. You will be required to, again, as within any indoor building inside the municipality of Calgary, wear a mask. You will be required to be physically distant from anybody else up there as well, but one parent in the viewing area per family at Canyon Meadows. When you are at Seton, you are not allowed to, as they described it to us, loiter in any of the public areas in the building. So if you bring your swimmer to the pool, you can bring them up to meet the COVID marshal, a coach, before they go down on the pool deck. But at that point, you will either have to have a membership so that you can go work out, you'll have to go to the library, or you'll have to go to the cafeteria, grab a coffee for the time you're there, or a meal, whatever the case might be, or go outside the building for a walk, because at Seton, you won't be allowed to remain in the building unless you're in one of those areas, and you're not allowed in the viewing area. Not at Seton, not at this current time.
Jake, I was just going to mention at Seton, they have said if your swimmer is 8 and under, you can be with them down to the change room if you feel that that's necessary. Our plan is to sort of collect everyone and go through the gates as a group. And that's kind of how Seton would like us to do it. So, you know, but certainly if you feel like your swimmer needs you there through the change room, once they are changed and go on to the pool deck, like Jason said, you'll have to find something to do while they're training. And they've been even so specific to say that they don't even want anyone leaning up against the glass windows trying to watch from outside. So They really are going to keep that area clear. I'm not sure how they're going to manage the coffee shop because I think it's going to be busy, but hopefully there's more space in the library, or you have errands to run, or somehow to keep yourself busy.
So team gear, yeah, I mean, the majority of our gear and our sort of requirements would be, you know, when we get to competitions. Obviously, we still have requirements for suits and for caps, particularly on Saturdays when everybody is asked to wear their team gear. But beyond that, you know, the requirements for team gear are not really until we get going and get going on competition. When we'll let you know, we'll give you a heads up as to when that is. We are planning some equipment sales here in the fall for people. And just so you are aware, if you are short any technical equipment, pull buoys, fins, kickboards, and the like, Team Aquatics is having a sale this weekend on Saturday the 12th. I don't have any more details than that, other than it is on Saturday the 12th. And there should be some fairly significant discounts there. Spalumbos, yes, we've I think we've done that before, and we do have, again, these fundraisers. We do have family account fundraisers and somebody that looks after that as it pertains to those type of events. And they'll send out some information, you know, once they've kind of made a determination on what they might be able to do, and for sure, Spalumbos is one. I'm not sure, it's been a few years since we've done Spalumbos, but yeah, things like that, if they're available. We do have a parent volunteer that looks after that, and it is the parent volunteers that drive those family account fundraisers. And really, if you have any of those ideas or suggestions, absolutely, by all means, you can fire them off to that. And I actually just don't have that information in front of me as to who is doing that this year. Kara, unless you happen to know who that is offhand, it's not something that I actually thought to bring to this meeting.
Yeah, it's Linda again this year, and I can connect you. If you email me in the office, then I can connect you with her. I think that we also have her contact on the website.
Okay, so that's Linda Carroll. She's one of the performance program parents, and I just wasn't sure if she was doing it again. She's done it for us in years past. So suggestions like that, absolutely, you can take them to Linda, and we can see if it's viable and try and make that work. So do we have, I believe that we've gone through all of the questions that have either been emailed in or that showed up here in our chat, but does anybody have any additional questions that they'd like to throw up in the chat that we either haven't addressed or you'd like us to try and answer now? Good. Well, thank you for your comments there. My assumption is that you've looked at our documents, return to documents, and the frequently asked questions. Those are evergreen and very fluid documents that will change and be updated on an as-needed basis. So, and again, if in the meantime, over the next couple of days, if you have any questions that come up, if they're COVID related, such as a question regarding piano lessons or something similar that comes to mind, please address those to our COVID officer, Ella, cascade.covid19@gmail.com. If the question is technical of nature of the swimming program or the dryland program, you can send that either to Coach Kara or Coach Jackie. Anything that is administrative, by all means, you can send that into the office, and we will do our best to answer those. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We will post this once it's been rendered and available. It will be on our YouTube page, and we'll put up a link in our social media and on our COVID-19 resources on the Cascade website as well. Thanks a lot, everybody.